Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's figure out what is happening today on a pretty painful day for Tesla and the market as a whole. And yeah, let's just discuss and talk about it. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button as it does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. The link is down below. If you're interested, of course, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, etc. on Tesla every single day as the market is open for just $2.99 a month. Link is in the description of the video, so we'd love to have you there. But with all that being said and done, let's just jump into it. Tesla with a painful day today, down about 5.6% on the day, closing at 161.5 per share, and down a little bit further in post-market as well, closing at pretty important levels here. So let's talk about this and what does this all mean. So I don't think you need me to tell you that today is not a good day. Obviously, on the back news of literally, some people getting, some important people getting, I don't know if they're like, maybe they quit on their own regard, maybe they got laid off, maybe some kind of combination of the two, but like Drew Baglino, for instance, left, right? SVP of Powertrain and Energy at Tesla, and a few other key members have been, again, either they left on their own accord and or got fired. Who knows, right? On top of that, also about 10% of Tesla's workforce, if you will, also got laid off today. So that's part of the issue. And Tesla, normally stocks rise on such news where like they're quote unquote firing or letting go a lot of people, mainly because that means that the company is obviously paying less salaries, which in turn more money to the bottom line, more revenue, etc. Right? But in this case, Tesla, the investors clearly are assuming the worst, because there's also news that apparently Tesla put the actual 25K electric car codenamed NV9 on the back burner, despite what Elon Musk said. Maybe what was it, like a week ago or something like that, where Elon refuted Reuters post how saying they said how they completely scrapped it or something like that. Right? Apparently that's not the case, and Electric is saying that it's actually on pause for who knows how long. It's just completely on pause. No real plans really to move it any further anytime soon, according to them. Obviously, we don't know if this is true or not yet, but that's potentially what's also driving weakness. And on top of that, just a really weak, market day overall. So which Tesla, of course, is not happy about. But with that being said, taking a look at the technicals, right? We are approaching pretty much at a very, 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 very important level, right? We talked about this on the 4-hour chart many times, right? So the first thing we talked about was this. Remember how I said that these two levels right here are the important levels. If we break one of these two levels, we'll probably go up to that next level, the next, like almost guaranteed, right? If we break above 179-ish, I said we'll go probably to 183 retest, which is probably going to break. And if we lose this 168.5-ish level, we most likely will come back down to retest this 160s level, which is exactly what we're doing right now, right? And that's why I had those levels there, right? They're not there just for show. They're there for a reason. We can now most likely just remove this because it's pretty much played out. But, we are now at that crucial 160s level. This is a very, very important level. The thing that's unfortunate is the fact that we did close pretty much at the lows of the day. We very, very weak close on Tesla here. So I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow potentially, not only do we come down to this 160 level to really, really tap it once again, that we've done, a few times over here. I think the low was exactly 160.51 was the low for both of these, right? To the cent. There's a chance we come back down and tap those one more time. If not, potentially even flush slightly below. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me if we actually get a little bit of a flush slightly below like this, get some stop losses down here, and then ultimately make our way back up. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. Again, I don't know if that'll actually happen, right? Who knows? Maybe we actually just flush and continue down to this next level of about the 150s, which is, the level I've been talking about for quite a while, right? That is also a possibility, but it's not uncommon for markets to essentially have these little flushes. People probably have a lot of stop losses below these levels. Market flushes, takes those stop losses out, and then rises back up. Like, it's a pretty common thing that markets like to do, especially on stocks like Tesla, where, there's a lot of retail attention, right? And, a lot of retail probably have stop losses like that right now. So, that is a possibility. So keep that in mind. Like, just keep that in the back of your head as a potential, play scenario moving into potentially even as early as tomorrow, right? So take that into account. Now, going back to the daily very quickly here, you can see, we did arguably have a false breakout, right? This, descending wedge that we did break out, and we did come back and retest several times. Well, off of today's, market weakness plus Tesla negativity on the news, well, we officially have, broken back down into this wedge. We are holding the bottom of the wedge once again, roughly, but, it is essentially a false breakout. That's not a good sign. That is, arguably, pretty bearish, right? The MACD is still technically flipped bullish, right? It hasn't flipped bearish just yet. The RSI is still showing some weakness, even though it's still showing overall some pretty substantial bullish divergences where, from all the way here, as we're essentially just constantly making pretty much lower lows, if not equal lows. The RSI is still making very obvious higher lows overall, right? So that's important to understand too, right? We are still making some pretty massive bullish divergences, and all it takes is one nice major catalyst, or maybe somehow earnings is not that bad actually, or whatever. Some catalyst will squeeze Tesla. Doesn't mean it'll happen, of course. It absolutely still means we can fall down even further to my 150s, potentially even 140s level. Absolutely a real possibility, and you have to be mentally prepared for that, because that is a possibility, right? Especially if we lose 160, and more importantly, really start closing like a daily candle below 160. That is a very, very, very real possibility. I already have buy orders set into the 150s. I have cash secured puts in the 150s that I'm very happy to buy, and I will continue selling more into the 140s. If we do drop into the 150s as early as tomorrow, I will continue selling cash secured puts, and building my position, or rebuilding my position, if you will. So that's the main way I'm looking at it. Now, if we bring out, for instance, the 5 and 13, I think it goes without saying, we haven't crossed over to the bullish side just yet. So, that's important to know. But again, the main thing I want to point out here is the fact that if there is a place to bounce, if there is an area to get a bounce, it is this area, right? We bounced here before, we bounced here right here, and now we're right back at it, right? We're still ping-ponging, right, between these two zones, right? We obviously made a bit of a lower high here, which isn't great, and now we're pretty much back to making, so far roughly an equal low. So, it is technically a little bit more bearish than bullish, I would say. But, if there is a place to still bounce, of course, it would be this area. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. And if we do bounce from here, I wouldn't be surprised to get a move back up to about the low 170s, to where this higher volume profile you can see right here is. Most likely get a bounce to there, potentially reject, and then maybe make our way back down once again. Maybe, coming into earnings, maybe post earnings, etc. Something like that wouldn't surprise me. Now, moving over to my favorite indicator, the band's regression, of course, right? What we have here is as follows, right? We have a very, very oversold on the 1 hour. We have a very, very oversold stock, really, right? We're extremely oversold. RSI is oversold. MACD's, getting to potentially close to oversold. It's not really oversold. Honestly, the MACD can go a lot lower, but the RSI is in oversold territories on the 1 hour. The stochastic is oversold, right? And the band's regression, you can see we're at the red line. That doesn't usually happen. If we zoom out a little bit here, you can see whenever it comes down to the red line, it usually gets at least some form of bounce, or at the very least, it starts going sideways, right? Same thing here, right here. It came down to the red line, and it didn't really bounce right away, but it started basing around that level, and we're pretty much right around that same, general vicinity here, right? You can see here, 1 hour. Every time it came down to that bottom line, the red line, it's based and or found a bounce, relatively soon. Again, it doesn't mean it has to this time, but something to note, of course, right? Just looking through just strictly technical analysis and history of how it performed to this, relative indicator. The 4 hour chart is also approaching some pretty oversold territories. We're at the pretty much second yellow line, which is like quite oversold. Obviously, the red line is where, something like a 4 hour chart getting there is more meaningful than like a 1 hour chart, because that means it's a really oversold on a much more meaningful, more longer term, I guess, time scale, right? So for instance, if we come back down to about the mid-ish, we'll say 150, honestly, even as early as tomorrow or Wednesday, extreme oversold levels that I would be, most likely just even potentially just buying up straight up shares at that point, as opposed to selling cash secured puts, because I do think that would be extreme oversold territory, which I think, it is due for at least some bounce, from that area. So that's the way I look at it there, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is on all these time frames, including the daily even, we started entering, if not already, are deep into oversold territories. And, again, it doesn't mean we have to bounce right now, but I am expecting a bounce sooner than later. And, this is a position where, at least in my opinion, being short the stock isn't as good or as good of a risk versus reward as being long the stock. Just my opinion, though. Obviously, we can still flush even further, but that holds even more true if we happen to flush tomorrow into the 150s. Then it's like, you really have to be insane to start entering shorts here on Tesla, at least in my opinion, right? Because, the opportunity was well before that, obviously, right? If we flush that aggressively even tomorrow, I personally wouldn't want to be short. I'm just saying I wouldn't be shorting, at least not entering fresh short positions. If you're already short from before, then that's great. But if you're entering fresh ones, I don't know about that one, right? That's the main way I'm looking at it right there. Now, moving over to the options flow, of course, we have bearish flow on Tesla, by far the highest, 240 million, which is pretty sizable, no question about that, right? It was all over the place today. The thing that did kind of, show me something that's kind of interesting is this. So we had one of this, right? This was at 10 a.m., obviously before we flushed even further. I think we were around 165. You can see here the spots of the stock, right? But a lot of calls came in on Tesla for, what is this, October 18th, pretty much around $700,000 came in October 18th for 280 strike, which is obviously substantially out of the money. And October, yeah, it's, like what is that, like 7 months, something like that out. But it's not that far out. Like that's not crazy. At least for something that's like a 280 strike, that's not substantially far out. So clearly someone is bullish moving into the next few months, even though, they're obviously at the moment, assuming they're still holding, which they probably are under the water on these, option plays. But someone's clearly bullish moving forward into like the second half of the year, let's say, something like that, maybe even the, final quarter of the year roughly. But with that being said, there have been a lot of puts on Tesla today. A lot of puts came in on Tesla, a lot of puts came in on Tesla that, it is worth noting, right? Trying to find where they were. There was like several millions. They were somewhere around here. I think it was like these ones here, right? There's like a 1.18 million there, right? Can't really find them. Let me see if I can find them real quick. Yeah, here. So you can see here, there's 1.18 million here. It's not really showing the other ones. I'm trying to find the other ones. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there were a lot of puts that came in either for this month or next month that were, pretty sizable, like in the millions even, right? That, is important to note that I can't really find right now. 1 million here, 1 million, that's a call actually. So 1 million put here, 1 million put here, another 1.7 million put here, 172 strike, 165 strike, 160 strike. Some of them are for a few months out. Some of them are just for 2 weeks or this week even. So we'll see. I would assume that this 1.7 million that this person took, 172.5 strike, right, for this Friday, that they did pretty much at 10 a.m. are most likely just, already took profit or looking to take profit soon because they're already up a pretty respectable amount on that alone. But the main thing I'm looking that really caught my eye is, of course, these calls moving into Tesla. But overall, you can see definitely a decent amount of put flow regardless on Tesla, right? A lot of bearish flow, but most of it is for like a month or two out, while the bulls are still buying calls for much farther out though, like late third quarter, if not fourth quarter calls, while the bears are buying puts for 1 or 2 months out. So that's still the main trend I'm seeing on Tesla. The whales are still stacking up for longer term plays. The bears are still stacking up for shorter term plays. And clearly the bears were right because shorter term, it looks like, we have a lot of pain potentially still ahead of us. So we'll see how that plays out. Keep in mind today was some decent respectable volume on today's dip. So not crazy volume, but, respectable volume. And the main thing I'm looking at right now is, like I said many times, just really simply looking to see if it holds, right? This 160 level. If 160 holds, I definitely think that we at the very least get a bounce back up to about 170. Sometime probably this week, honestly, by Wednesday wouldn't surprise me. If we lose 160, then I think 150s is absolutely next. And I would be surprised if we just flush down to 140s right away. I'd expect 150s to hold, potentially bounce back up to at least this 160 level to retest this before potentially making our way even lower. But also very important to understand that we may get a stop loss flush tomorrow, right? A stop loss flush tomorrow, right below 160s, trigger that out. Maybe go back down to about 158 or so, trigger all the stop losses, and then make our way back up, and people start FOMO buying, on that stop loss hunt. So pretty spooky place to be here for Tesla. Definitely a little bit of a spooky place to be here, right? Definitely, kind of looking bearish here, but we'll see how it plays out. There's still some hope for the bulls here. We're at what could be the bottom here, but, it remains to be seen, of course. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. It'll be pretty crucial to see how this week plays out. And of course, we have earnings next week. So yeah, until then, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.